2017, an unimaginable situation.
A few months after I was crowned Miss South Africa, I was on my way to an event 2 blocks away from my apartment back then. I stopped at the red traffic light, got surrounded by multiple men, had a gun pointing to my head. I immediately surrendered, got out of the vehicle and tried running away. But when I tried running away, the man on my side of the vehicle grabbed me by my wrist. Get in, you're going with us. Instincts kind of just kicked in that moment. Never go to the second destination. Running up that avenue in my 6-inch high heels, having a gun pointed to my head, the terror in my eyes, looking over my shoulder, not knowing if my perpetrators were going to be shooting me in the back. When you're in a traumatic situation, it's so much harder to remember what the next step should be if you've never even thought about it.
I actually have a funny story there.
Yeah?
I wasn't planning on telling it, but yeah, I met Tim for the first time at some like Oscar party or something. I don't even remember. It was some sort of like industry party, and I asked, and this was a while ago. I mean, probably, I don't even know. And I remember asking him, like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm working out with my coach at UCLA. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, if you need an extra, set of hands to catch passes from you, let me know. I was totally joking. And I guess we swapped numbers. And then the next morning he texted me and he was like, hey, did you really want to come out and run routes for me? And I was like, I mean, I will. I was like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, come on out. So I showed up to UCLA and ran routes for the day for Tim.
I love that.
Oh my gosh.
It showed me how out of shape I was. And this was when I was in good shape. Like I was in top-notch shape in my mind at this time. Holy crap.
Awesome.
It was so fun though, but it was
So was that just like a one-time thing? Okay.
Yep. I know. I don't remember when it was, but I realized at that moment the difference in catching a pass from an NFL quarterback and anybody else in the world.
Yeah.
Like I played football my whole life, and I was used to, catching a lot of passes, but watching the ball leaving his hands and then all of a sudden be in my face was just like 10 times faster than I was used to.
Oh man.
Probably hurt.
Yeah, what hurt the most was just the non-stop routes. It was just like they have like 3 guys out there running routes for him, and you just don't stop. And like the cardio required to run routes for Tim Tebow is ridiculous.
You got to live out your dreams.
I know.
I'm gonna have to ask him about this. That's so great.
It's literally like
that was like one of the
Taylor's
first times you guys hung out was running routes. I love it.
Yeah.
I grew up in South Africa, and so you can hear the messed up accent, and we don't have football there or baseball. We watch rugby and cricket and everything else but American sports.
Yeah.
And so when I first moved to the States, I genuinely had never heard of Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
I didn't know any football players. I just genuinely didn't. I didn't know. Like, I just knew nothing. I was like, hey, rugby players don't wear pads and helmets. So just saying.
It's funny.
It's true.
Funny.
And we are the world champions. And you just say that too. Anyway. Are you really? Brag. Yeah, we are. We just won the World Cup.
Really?
Back-to-back World Cup. So
holy crap.
Yeah. So we're like, we really love rugby. Okay. So it's not just like some team. Anyway, so this guy, Tim Tebow, I thought it was like Tim Tebow, reached out to me and essentially invited my little sister to a celebration called Night to Shine. My little sister was born with severe special needs, and long story short, she wasn't able to attend just because of her health condition, but Tim Tebow and I stayed in touch.
Stop.
And while now it's like 6 years later and we haven't necessarily stopped talking, but it wasn't until I like saw somebody wear a badge that had like a T and a bow tie on it that I was like, oh, it's Tebow. It's not Tebow. So hi everyone, I'm Demi Tebow.
Oh my gosh. Demi Tebow, welcome to the squeeze.
Thank you so much.
I love that so much. Okay, so we start each episode off with this little jar. It's called Citrus Got Real. That's our little game.
Love it.
If you would like to just pull one of those little questions out of there.
Yeah. You want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Okay. It says, do you say caramel or Carmel? I say, can I have a caramel? Oh.
Caramel
No,
or
in
caramel?
South Africa we say like caramel, not Carmel.
Sounds the same.
I wasn't convincing enough.
Wait, say both, because we say caramel or caramel.
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 So
Caramel.
you say caramel?
Or caramel.
Yes, but honestly, listen, since I've moved to Florida, I like live in the South, so I'll catch myself saying like plant and plant in the same sentence because, you know, like I remember I like offended this poor waiter one day. I asked for ice I actually think I don't like ice in my drink. I said like, no ice. Yes. And he thought I said something like very offensive relating to a donkey. Oh, like the other, like something that ice could sound like. And he was just so offended. And I realized like, man, like you're going to have to adapt the way you say certain things or you're like always going to be misunderstood. It gets so annoying. People are like, what are you saying? What do you mean? Yeah. You know, so I will literally catch myself saying plant and plant in the same sentence because I think your brain just.
You pick up on stuff.
Yeah, you pick up on stuff and you like somehow just naturally adapt to it.
Yeah.
Caramel. Now that just sounds.
Okay.
In Afrikaans, which is my first language, it would be caramel.
Okay.
Okay.
Now I'm confused. How do you say it?
I feel
you
like
say caramel?
Caramel.
I grew up definitely saying caramel.
Like a
Yeah,
caramel.
I think we're all sound that way.
I want to talk about pageants a little bit because that world is so fascinating to me because I just don't. I just learned that you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't be married.
They've changed the rules. I can't keep up because different pageant systems, like all have different rules.
Yeah.
Yes. When I competed, you were not allowed to be married. I think some of them, if I'm not mistaken, have like changed some of the rules.
Yeah.
But I remember like being Miss South Africa, it was like not even allowed to be in a public relationship.
Wow.
And that's only like 6 years ago, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, they had their reasons for it. Like it's a job, like it's a full-time job. Like you get paid a salary to be in that role. And, you know, that's your persona, that's that role that you're fulfilling. So I believe some of the rules have changed in different systems.
Yeah.
But it is definitely fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why I didn't like think that was a thing, but I remember
I've never heard of that.
I saw there was like recently because they had changed the rules and like there was like a 50-50 thing. I just saw it on TikTok. I don't follow it, but
honestly, Tay, I'm so far removed. I feel like from that whole world at this point. It's been a minute. So and it's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
Also, there's been so many changes of ownership in the last years. So the people that I got to work with aren't necessarily even, you know, in positions anymore or working with the organization.
Yeah.
So there's just been so many changes, I guess.
Oh, wow. Someone owns it?
Yeah. It's like, I don't
know these things.
No, it's like, I mean, it's really run like an organization, like a company. That you have a contract. Like, you know, I was required to live in New York for that year. It's you're paid a salary. It's a job that you do. So you basically work for the organization. So
is it a big thing in South Africa, or how did you get into it?
Yeah, you know, I think in the US the pageant system, you know, like toddlers and tiaras, you know, a show that you got to watch in South Africa. That's not necessarily that big of a thing over there. I think what really drew me to entering Miss South Africa, because you have to win your country's title to be able to go and compete internationally. Yeah. And to be able to compete at Miss Universe, you really just get one chance, because it's not like I can go back and like win Miss South Africa again. That'd be really weird.
Yeah.
So, and also part of the rules. So it's really like a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like literally you can never ever compete again. But what really drew me to specifically the Miss South Africa organization back then was I grew up as a little girl loving the princess dresses and the tiaras and the makeup, and like I'm a very girly girl, like I'm not, you know, that's who I am. But as I grew older and as I matured, I realized like what I like about these women and what I have found inspiring about them isn't necessarily their pretty ball gowns, but it's the impact that they were able to have in their communities. It is the voice that they got to be for a lot of women in our country that didn't necessarily have the opportunity to speak up for themselves or to defend themselves in a way. And I think that's really what started inspiring me. I didn't always know that I wanted to be Miss South Africa, but I knew that I wanted to be that type of woman. I wanted to be a Miss South Africa type of woman. And when I won Miss South Africa, I got to like go and address like our version of Congress, you know, in South Africa, and speak to political figures. And that's where my Unbreakable workshop started, where I got to go around South Africa and empower women with skills and tools and connect them with field experts and people that can be a great resource for them. So
yeah. That's super cool.
How old were you when you started it? Were you older, or had you done it when you were younger?
I definitely did a couple of pageants when I was younger. Like I grew up in a town with one stoplight.
Oh my gosh.
With one traffic light, like really tiny town. Like we bought our groceries on the farmer's market on Saturdays, like that. And most of those people, like the vendors were like parents that had kids in my school, you know? So we, you know, once a year we'd have like a fair and you'd enter like Little Miss Sunshine just so you could win like tickets to the mall that was like an hour away.
Oh my gosh.
You know? So like vouchers to the mall.
Oh my gosh.
So I did a few growing up, but nothing like I feel like some of the pageant systems require. In the US. I feel like sometimes in the US the pageant system is like you have to be a part of it for a long time to kind of make your name for yourself. Like I feel like winning a first time is very unheard of in a lot of systems. But yeah, that wasn't necessarily my case.
Yeah. Throughout your time in pageants, did you ever like find yourself, you know, comparing yourself to other women?
Yeah, I mean, are you kidding? Like that's literally what it's about.
Yeah.
Like you're showing up trying to be prettier, taller, something that you cannot be. You know, trying to fit in, trying to wear the dress that you're supposed to wear. What's going to be the winning dress? Like it's, you know, so much of that can be very superficial very easily. I think the part that was like the hardest for me was like the Q&A session, because you get asked literally anything about anything and you have no idea what that would relate to. And Afrikaans is my first language, so I didn't really like learn to speak good English in a way. Like I grew up speaking English, but not to the extent of feeling confident, being able to stand on a stage in front of millions of people and answer a question that I've never heard before. So when I went to go and compete at Miss Universe, I knew that I would literally have one opportunity. So I actually gave up speaking my first language for 3 months to prepare. And I told my friends and family, I was like, hey guys, like I need you to only text me, speak to me, call me in English. And they're like, cool, we'll see you in 3 months. Like, good luck. Like, no, they were very supportive. But, I mean, yeah, it's definitely a lot of comparison. But I remember the night that the final of Miss Universe happened. I stood on the stage, and you like go to the center stage when they announce, you know, the top 5, and then there's 3 left, and then there's 2 left, and then the 2 that's left like go center stage and like hold hands, and they're gonna call out like one name. And I remember standing in that spot, holding the other contestants' hands, and just like if I watch the footage back, like every year they'll have like an anniversary, you know, reel pop up on social media. I watched that reel and I'm like, I couldn't stop smiling. Like I genuinely couldn't stop smiling. And it's not because I knew I was going to win. I obviously had no idea, you know, but it's because I felt so content in that moment, where I really felt like there was nothing else that I could have done to be in that moment. And if that was something that was destined for me, if that was a part of my life's calling or purpose, then that was going to come true. And as long as I had done everything in my capabilities, you know, that like the rest is in the Lord's hands and it's not necessarily in mine. So that was a sweet moment of just contentment. Like it's going to suck, like not winning. Nobody wakes up being excited to lose, you know, but it was going to be okay regardless.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. Knowing that you did like everything you could have possibly done, like, makes it a little easier.
Yeah,
for sure. I feel like as of recently, something that's been trendy is electrolytes. And, you know, there's so many companies that have packs of electrolytes, and taking them, it's kind of hard to pick and choose like which one is actually going to be good for you. That's why I trust Element. It's a 0 sugar electrolyte drink, and they are made free of sugar, artificial flavors, and any of those other sketchy ingredients that we just don't want to be drinking and putting in our bodies. But I didn't realize actually like how important electrolytes are for you. I mean, hydration is important, yes, but electrolyte deficiency or imbalance can cause headaches, cramps, fatigue, brain fog, and weakness. And we don't want any of that. But some benefits of electrolytes are maintain a steady energy, improve cognitive function, fewer headaches, fewer muscle cramps, perform better longer throughout the day, supports fasting, supports a low-carb diet, helps regulate digestion, keeps your skin hydrated, you get better sleep. Should I keep going? I think you get the point. You guys, you need to check out Element. They're great, and they have so many different flavors too, which I love. And you can get your free Element sample pack with any purchase at drinkelement.com/squeeze. Also try the new Element Sparkling, a bold 16-ounce can of sparkling electrolyte water. I love sparkling water, so this new little addition that they have here is just, it's chef's kiss. It's so great. Go check Element out and stay hydrated this summer. This is the summer of wellness, and I feel like so many of us are starting to really focus on our health and wellness and implement things into our routines like working out, eating healthy, things like that to help with our health and wellness, and really just starting to take that next step. And if you're looking for something simple to add into your routine, you need to check out Seeds DS-01 Daily Symbiotic. I've been taking this product for years and years, and I will take this product until they stop selling it because I just truly love it so much and what it has done for my gut health, my digestion, my regularity, my skin. It's crazy what this little pill can do. It's actually a capsule in a capsule, which is really cool because it actually like makes it all the way through to your gut, which a lot of probiotics don't do that on the market. So it's really cool to trust a product and be able to take it and know that it's good for me and going to do good inside of me. So go ahead and join me this summer and support your gut with Seeds DS-01 Daily Symbiotic. You can go to seed.com/thesqueeze and use code 25thesqueeze to get 25% off your first month. That's 25% off your first month at Seeds DS-01 Daily Symbiotic at seed.com/thesqueeze, code 25thesqueeze. You guys, if you do anything, please try this product. So you've talked about how, you win Miss Universe, you have your year of that, and then giving up your crown. Mm-hmm. Did you kind of struggle with like an identity crisis with that?
Very much so. I feel like I entered really a season that felt like a wasted season afterwards. Like it felt like just a waiting season. Like time was just passing and nothing was happening. Nothing was going my way. I honestly pretty much I moved back to New York. Tim and I had just gotten engaged, but he was in sports, and so we were in a long distance relationship, so really there were moments where my highlight of my day was like my phone call with my fiance, and I had no friends. I didn't necessarily have friends that cared more for me than what I think they might have thought they could get from me, if that makes sense. No friends, like maybe one half of a friend somewhere, somehow. But that was just, I didn't have people in my life that could point me back to the truth, that could encourage me and tell me like, hey, this might be a sucky season. Like things might not be going your way. Like, but doesn't mean it's going to last forever. This doesn't mean this is the only way it's going to be going forward. Something that I did in that season that I felt really encouraged me was, and I wish I noticed it. It's always like in hindsight that you see things, right? But something that I did that was really encouraging to me is to stop putting the focus on myself and to go and serve someone. And I know this sounds so cliche, it can sound so silly, but I got on the F train. It was an organization that I worked with as Miss Universe. And I got on the F train in New York and I went downtown and I just went and volunteered at like a super like kitchen where they cooked for people that didn't have food. And it was just like a time where I got to just be around people that are loving other people, that's supporting other people. And it was just like 2 hours that I just totally took the pressure and the focus off of myself. Because I think when we enter waiting seasons like that, it can very easily feel like we are responsible to remove all of the obstacles in our life ourselves, and asking for help can feel like weakness in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish it was something that I focused more on, because I know that I left that soup kitchen every single time feeling like I got poured into. Yeah. You know, when I arrived there thinking like I'm doing something for someone else, but really that was very healing to me in a way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. How like, you know, it's like the saying, it is better to give than to receive, but like actually like how you feel inside, like I just feel like it goes so many more miles for the person that is giving, because you're able to like form gratitude and like, you know, gain perspective on things.
Yeah. Sure. But it's also like you also have to like be a good receiver, and that can be hard sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, that can be really hard. I know there was other moments in my life where I realized like in order to really start healing, I need to be able to receive help. Like I need to be able to accept that.
Yeah. That's so true.
Definitely something I struggle with.
You want to dive more into that?
No, I'm good.
Sure. You're so cute. It's like maybe off the mics. Okay, so 2017 was, you know, a very big year for you, Miss South Africa, Miss Universe, but you also experienced an unimaginable situation in that same year. Can you share with our audience a little bit about what happened?
Yeah. A few months after I was crowned Miss South Africa, I was like on my way to an event as the official Miss South Africa, and I got to wear this pretty dress, and I got to drive in my like brand new car that was part of my prize package. I was so excited about it. And on my way to this event, like 2 blocks away from my apartment back then, I stopped at the red traffic light. We call traffic lights robots in South Africa. So when I first moved to New York, I would ask the taxi driver to drop me at the robot, and he'd be like, "What?
Oh my gosh, robot!"
We call it
so
robots.
much cuter.
So I stopped at a red robot, and like, you know, what do we do? Like fix our mascara, pack our bag or something. And long story short, I got surrounded by multiple men, had a gun pointing to my head, and I immediately surrendered, got out of the vehicle and tried running away. But when I tried running away, the man on my side of the vehicle grabbed me by my wrist and said something like, "Get in, you're going with us." And my instincts kind of just kicked in in that moment. Or it wasn't necessarily just instincts, like things that I had learned in the past, like just came to top of mind. A few things. One was never go to the second destination. And 2, the throat. My dad had like sent me on safety driving courses. Like before I was allowed to drive my own car, I like could change all the tires in my vehicle, like, you know, in like record time. He would like tie me and like, you know, just like really set me up for success. Unfortunately, South Africa does really have an issue with crime. Like it's a reality, and I would be doing it a disservice of calling it anything else. There's a lot of women and children in my home country that really hurt and that really suffer and that are really affected by crime. Men as well, but especially gender-based violence is a really big issue that we deal with. And this was something that I knew about before, but didn't necessarily really learn until after I had physically been affected by an incident like that. I actually write a whole chapter about this in my book, but I managed to get away from that situation. And Tay, it was 5:30 in the afternoon. It was peak hour traffic, bumper to you guys live in LA, like, you know, a thing or two about traffic, right? Like it's bumper to bumper traffic. And I remember running up that avenue in my 6-inch high heels, knocking on window after window after window. Like people had their windows open. They could hear what I was saying. They could see the terror in my eyes. And having a gun pointed to my head was mortifying. Like that was absolutely awful. But the worst part of that story, I think, as I've healed from it and learned from it, wasn't necessarily that moment of being surrounded by a bunch of armed men, but it was running up that avenue begging for help and nobody would stop to help me. Like I remember running up that avenue, looking over my shoulder, not knowing if my perpetrators were going to be shooting me in the back or coming for me. I didn't know what their intent was. I still don't know what their intent was. I don't want to speculate. I just know it wasn't good. And that was the hardest part of that story. Right. And it wasn't until I eventually reached the intersection where a young girl, she was 19 years old, in this old little beat up car pulled over and like opened her door and led me to safety. And I'm thankful for that girl for so many reasons. Obviously, for leading me to a safe space and place that night and getting me to people that, you know, love me and care for me. But I'm grateful for her because she taught me to never be one of those cars that rolled up their window or that pretended not to hear or pretended not to see, but to be that one girl that leans over and opens the little car door for somebody that's in need. And
wow,
that moment has honestly, I feel like, changed the trajectory of my life in such a big way. You know, I think there is so much of that moment that was painful, but that has been turned into purpose.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, in a lot of cases, if we are willing for that pain to be used for purpose, it can be used. It doesn't mean it's not going to take some time and work and help and restoration and healing. But now I get to serve on multiple boards here in the US and around the world for campuses that care for survivors of human trafficking, and get to be part of long-term restoration programs for women all over the world that have gone through some of the most unimaginable evils. And that's also where Unbreakable was born.
Yeah.
And, you know, I get to provide resources the same that I was given, you know, by my dad forcing me to go on these self-defense courses or safety driving courses. There's, you know, when you're in a traumatic situation, it's so much harder to remember what the next step should be if you've never even thought about it, right? Like in any hard situation, it's if you've never thought about it or never even like sought wisdom about it or discerned about it, it's harder to come up with that really good answer. Like, hey, punch this guy in his throat and get yourself out of this situation, you know, rather than going downtown with them and 10 other of their friends. Like it's really hard to come up with that in a traumatic situation if you've never thought about it before.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Wow. Well, thank you, Dad, for getting you prepared for that. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
And as a like teenager, I hated that. Like I was like, Dad, this is dumb. I don't need this. Like nothing's gonna happen, you know, like but sometimes, like, you know, there's a Greek word that is used to describe love, and it's agape. And what it means is to choose the best interest of another person and to act on their behalf. And I think that's one of the best forms of love, is not just to say like, yeah, sure, just drive in your car, just be fine, but to be like, hey, actually, like, you can be better at this. Like, let me help you. Let me go and act on your behalf because I'm seeing something that you're not seeing right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, as teenagers, like, we don't always want to listen to those things.
Yeah.
Even as adults, we don't.
Yeah.
But they're important.
Those next like few days for you after that incident, what did that look like mentally for you?
I was a wreck. They didn't end up getting away with my vehicle. So that wasn't just open up a big question of like, well, were they there for me? I don't know. They got away with some of my house keys, remotes. And so I was mortified to go back to my home or my apartment because I didn't know if they, you know, knew where I lived, if they had access. My home wasn't like far away from where that incident happened. I ended up staying in a hotel for a good couple of days until we could change all the locks on my doors and install an alarm system and take all of the, you know, necessary precautions. But I remember going back to my apartment, locking myself into like 3 doors. And like but I couldn't take a shower and wash my hair and close my eyes because I was so nervous that if I close my eyes, I'm somehow not going to hear or see, like, you know, the water is going to prevent me from hearing if somebody enters, or, you know, talk about like sleeping with one eye open. So, and, you know, I was Miss South Africa at that time. I only won like 3 months prior to that, and I was still very much trying to prove myself. You know, the country like had a big say on the winner. Like there's a public vote. Like, you know, I'm trying to like prove that I was the rightful winner here. And I somehow convinced myself that being carjacked made me look weak. And I somehow convinced myself that it was my fault.
Wow.
You know, and later I learned by actually going to therapy and getting help, I learned that, you know, it's easier to blame yourself than to blame somebody else because you have more control over that. Yeah. And my stepmom is actually a neuropsychologist. She has her like PhD in neuropsychology. So I never went to therapy, you know, before, but I did grow up with a stepmom that was a neuropsychologist and that's still practicing till today. And so I think that just seeds of truth that she's helped me implement in my life and the skills and the tools that she's taught me throughout my life, just as a mom figure, probably has come in like way more handy than I ever really noticed. And interestingly enough, also what I learned from that incident is if you address, because what I was really suffering from was ASD, acute stress disorder, and that's from what I've learned after that incident. It's something that that's normal and that happens after a traumatic incident, and it can last for up to about 30 days. But if you seek professional help, like psychological help, within about 72 hours after that incident, it drastically minimizes the like opportunity for that ASD to turn into PTSD.
Really?
And so that was something that my stepmom really encouraged me to do, and that I'm so thankful for doing. I ended up receiving like EMDR treatment, which was very, very helpful. Like it was really crazy to see how your brain processes trauma. And I'm so thankful that I did that. You know, one thing my stepmom really helped me realize, she told me, she said, Demi, you are not going to be able to fully and truly heal until you recognize that you actually have a problem here. And that was a big step forward for me. Yeah. Even just acknowledging, I do kind of need help. I don't have to be strong all by myself in this situation.
That was a big thing for me in therapy with, you know, I worked as a COVID nurse and saw a lot. And when I first started going to therapy, I was telling my therapist like, oh, I went through this, but it's fine. Like, I'm okay. And I kept saying, it's fine. Like, I'm fine. And he was like, can you stop like saying that? Like, what you went through is traumatic, and you need to like actually address that it's okay that you're struggling and you're not fine, and that's fine, you know? And it took me a long time to like actually, I mean, that's something I still struggle with. I'm always like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it's okay. I'm fine. Like, I'm very quick to say that, but he was the first person that was like, you're not fine. What you went through is very traumatic. Yeah. So learn to like stop saying it's fine and like fully address it. But I did EMDR too for that. And it was like one of the best things I feel like I like could have done. It really helped. And
it really does.
Found like parts in my brain that I like didn't even like things I didn't even remember were like brought up. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I completely forgot like this happened in the hospital, or like I had this patient do this. So it's crazy what the EMDR can do. I'm a big advocate for that.
Same. Likewise. Well, first and foremost, thank you for just loving people and for being in that moment and helping people that really needed it, and just really being on those front lines. I can't imagine.
Never heard of the 72-hour thing. That's crazy.
Yeah. I think I've kind of heard of it, but once you start talking about it, I remembered. Yeah, that's
I mean, it makes sense.
I'm not sure exactly why. I'm obviously no expert, but that apparently those 72 hours after a trauma happens just can really be instrumental time period.
No, it makes sense.
Seek help. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I feel like that's a good segue to you and your husband's foundation, the Tim Tebow Foundation, because you guys do a lot of amazing work raising awareness in the fight against human trafficking and supporting children with medical needs.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what kind of drove both of you towards those two topics? Is that, is what you went through part of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for asking that. I think Tim and I, when we first met, I told you I didn't watch football, right?
Yeah.
So when we first met, I feel like we really didn't have a ton in common. Like we actually just genuinely didn't. Like we haven't seen like each other's favorite movies. Like a lot of the movies I think that you guys watch here just never even made it to South Africa as a kid, right? So we just didn't necessarily have like a ton in, like I talked rugby, he talked football, like didn't have a ton in common. But really what brought us together was a big part of our purpose separately. So we didn't necessarily have a ton in common, but we had a lot in purpose. And I'm so thankful for that because you can learn to play golf together. I think that's something you guys might be taking up. I don't know.
Yeah, we need it.
You can learn to play golf together. You can learn to play pickleball together. And we have, and that's fun and it's awesome. But really what brought us together was the work that the Tim Tebow Foundation does, serving people with, profound medical needs and special needs and disabilities. And my heart that stemmed from having a sister that was born with severe special needs. My little sister and I were 10 years apart. And I just always wanted to be a big sister. I think you're an only child too, right?
Yeah.
So I grew up the first 10 years of my life like begging my parents for a sibling, My parents were divorced. My mom couldn't have more children, but my dad and my stepmom, I'm like, you guys can give me a baby
Come
sister, come
on.
on. And the day came where they called me, and they actually on my 10th birthday, they called me and they sent me a fax.
Oh my gosh.
And they were like, hey, we want to send you your birthday gift. And I was like, what? Like Celine Dion's coming to South Africa. I was obsessed with Celine Dion. Like I just wanted, she had a tour and I was so excited. And we lived in such a small town. So I was like, I'm going to Celine Dion. Like this is amazing. Like what else are you going to send me on a fax, Celine Dion tickets, obviously. And the fax came through and it said like, Demi, you are going, I'm like, to a Celine Dion concert.
Oh my
and
gosh.
it said, you are going to be a big sister.
Aww.
And it was just the best birthday gift. It was just the best news. I immediately started planning, like our outfits are going to match. I'm going to teach her field hockey, which is what I played. Like we're going to go shopping together. Like it's just like all these like big sister dreams. I had them all. And Franja was born. And 4 months later, after she was born, shortly like after her first 6-week checkup, my parents realized something wasn't right, but they didn't know what, and it took another 2.5 months to actually get her diagnosed. And Franja was diagnosed with a brain dysgenesis, which means like the gray and black matter in her brain were disrupted, and it was threefold. And one of the things that happened was she was born without a cerebellum, which is your small brain.
Wow.
And I know a whole lot more about the small brain than I ever thought I needed to. Yeah. But the small brain is like back here, and it basically correlates and coordinates your whole nerve and muscular system. So anything that requires muscle usage, she had no control over. And that's anything as small as like swallowing. Like she had no control over that, so she ended up having to get a feeding tube. Something else that developed later on in her life was like just severe seizures. Up to one point she had like 42 in a 24-hour period.
Oh boy.
So it was really hard. It was just really hard seeing my parents not being able to do anything for her. Being the sibling of someone with special needs and disabilities, I think has just allowed me to resonate with people in a different way, been able to understand certain situations and have compassion for certain things that I don't think I would have necessarily been given the opportunity to have if I didn't have my little sister Franja. And really the goal of the Tim Tebow Foundation is to bring faith, hope, and love to people in their deepest, darkest hour of need. And that is, we have various different initiatives, but really the 4 main areas that we focus on is to fight for people, for victims of human trafficking and child exploitation, to provide to provide support for children with profound medical needs, to help with adoption aid and prevention, and our special needs ministry. So and our special, and Night to Shine is how Tim and I met. It was through inviting my sister to Night to Shine, which is a celebration for people all over the world. We have them in 56 countries up to date and 725 locations all over the world, and South Africa is one of them.
Oh my gosh.
And so between my sister and the work that my husband's been doing for such a long time is how we met. And so I first didn't know his name, but I knew he was the Night to Shine guy.
Okay.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I knew him as the Night to Shine guy, not necessarily
So sweet.
Tim Tebow. Yeah. And I think just, obviously the carjack in my heart that stemmed from that incident aligned our purpose in that way.
Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like that's so special. What you said is like, you guys didn't have a lot in common, but like you had the same purpose and like, goal in life and things that have affected you and things that you're passionate about. I don't think I've ever like heard someone like put it that way before, because I feel like we're so quick to be like, very surface level things. Like there was nothing you guys could like, not nothing, but there were fewer things you guys could surface level relate on than like what your hearts were like truly passionate about.
Yeah.
But that's so special. I haven't like heard someone put it that way before.
Or thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was really the thing that really connected us.
Yeah.
And that was the foundation for our relationship.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful for that, for sure.
That's so sweet. I am big on comfort and style. And I feel like with walking shoes, with workout shoes, tennis shoes in general, it's kind of hard to find a shoe that is both stylish, but also feels good on your feet and feels good to wear them and be active. If you're in that same boat as me, I have a solution for you, and you're going to want to listen to this. It is Vionic's Walk Max sneaker. These sneakers have been so amazing. They come in both men and women, which is great because if you ladies need a little gift for your boo, who doesn't love a good shoe? They're perfect for all day wear, staying active, and when you're just on the everyday go. They're water repellent, which is great because we are about to go on a trip to London and it's pretty rainy there. And having a shoe that you feel comfortable getting wet in kind of just takes the ease, out of thinking about that one less article of clothing. Their online shopping experience is so amazing. Beautiful website, easy to scroll through. Sometimes there's just websites and I have no clue what the frick I'm doing on there, but they make it really easy to shop and find that perfect shoe that you're looking for. We walk the dogs a lot, so wearing my Vionic shoes while we're walking the dogs is something that is so simple. I leave them by the door, slip them on, and then I'm ready to go. You can use code SQUEEZE at checkout for 15% off your entire order at vionicshoes.com. When you log into your account, this is for one-time use only. Go to Vionic, VIONICSHOES.com and get 15% off when you use code SQUEEZE. This episode is brought to you by No CD. Have you ever had recurring unwanted thoughts pop into your head that you just couldn't shake? Maybe it's a concern about your health, a fear of something happening to a loved one, or a disturbing image that keeps replaying in your mind. Thoughts like these can feel uncontrollable and cause a lot of distress. And if you've ever dealt with them, you might have wanted the anxiety to just go away. So maybe you tried to do whatever you could to get rid of it, thinking that if you asked for reassurance, checked in on whatever you were worried about enough, or tried to avoid anything that might trigger the thoughts, it would help. But no matter what you did and how much time you spent on it, the thoughts remained all-consuming and the anxiety just kept coming back stronger. If you can relate, you are not alone. These could be signs of obsessive compulsive disorder or OCD, but it's common for people to overlook them or dismiss them as general anxiety because they think OCD is just about organizing or hand washing, which is a major misconception. The truth is, OCD can latch onto anything that matters to you, and whatever it affects, it's serious. But with the right kind of therapy, it's also highly treatable. OCD needs specialized therapy, though, because other forms of therapy aren't typically effective, even ones like talk therapy. That's where No CD comes in. No CD is a virtual therapy provider for OCD that makes getting specialized therapy easier than ever. They have licensed therapists trained in exposure and response prevention, or ERP therapy, the most proven OCD treatment, who can help you take the power away from OCD in a live face-to-face video therapy session. No CD accepts many major insurance plans and offers always-on support between sessions. To learn more about therapy with No CD, go to nocd.com and schedule a free 15-minute call with their team. That's nocd.com to learn more and book a free 15-minute call. Okay, let's talk about your new book that is out now. Woo! A Crown That Lasts. You Are Not Your Label. Can you tell us a little bit about the meaning behind the title, what the book's about, just all about it?
Yeah, girl, I can't believe I wrote a book. That's so crazy. It's one of those things that just always feel impossible until it's done.
Yeah.
You know?
Sounds daunting to
Wait,
me.
is this your first book?
Yeah.
Why did I think you've like written? I literally feel like in my mind.
I wouldn't be surprised if you're like, no, this is number 15.
I literally thought this was going to be like number 7 or something.
Like my husband's written like a bajillion, so I have like some catching up to do. So that's the other Tebow.
Congrats, that's so exciting.
Thank you. It was so fun. I didn't think I was going to write the book by myself. I really thought I was going to, try and make use of a ghostwriter. But I knew from the beginning that there were 2 chapters that I wanted to write myself. And that was the chapter about my sister and then the chapter about the carjack. I actually have 2 full chapters about each of them and what has transcended from that and the lessons that I've learned. But I started writing the book and the first chapter, and I called my ghostwriter and I was like, AJ, I'm so sorry, but I think I'm going to write this myself. I loved it so much. Like writing about my sister was really hard. I'm the oldest. I'm an only child for the biggest part of my life. And I think I've always just resorted to being the responsible one, like being helpful, not causing chaos. And when my sister was born, I think that just got elevated without me ever realizing. And when I wrote this chapter, I remember having a conversation with my dad and my stepmom, and they were like, Demi, like after Franja passed away in 2019, we just kind of, never really spoke about how her life affected your childhood and the effects that had on you. And writing this chapter really forced me to think about that and to deal with it. Because I think Franja passed away. I got the first flight home. I started helping with the funeral and doing whatever we could to just do what we needed to do. And it didn't necessarily really even hit me. I know our first Heaven anniversary was really hard. Like I felt like that was like the first time that it actually really sunk in. But then after that, it wasn't until I wrote the book, and really like something about putting words on paper that's so therapeutic. And like you said, when you work with your therapist, like unlocks memories that you just never even knew you had, know? But really the base of my book is based in how we so quickly and so easily root our worth and our value and essentially our identity in things that are temporary. Mm-hmm. And I did that with so many things throughout my life. And it just sent me on a roller coaster of constantly not feeling like I'm enough, not feeling like I'm worthy, not feeling like I'm valued, just like sending me on a spiral of just not having any confidence. And, the way that we are formed, that our identity is formed is by like our life circumstances, the relationships that we have, the experiences that we have. But when we root our identity in our life circumstances, at some point or another, it's going to send us on this roller coaster of all these unanswered questions, all these, just self-doubt that we have, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I had to go and really realize, what is it that I'm rooting my identity in? And I realized it needed to be in something that was fixed, that was never changing, that was bigger than myself, and that was always trustworthy. And, for me personally, that has been my faith. That is the only thing that I have found that can live up to those 4 things, that is fixed, trustworthy, never changing, and bigger than myself.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So A Crown That Lost.
Wow.
I named it A Crown That Lost because my crown that lost.
Right.
So I'm not wearing it right now. I actually had to give it back, and that was hard.
Yeah. What is your biggest hope that people take away after reading the book?
I hope my readers, I really hope that everybody that reads this book can go and apply it to their own life. That was one of my biggest goals with writing this book. I didn't want it to just be a story of my life. I didn't want it to just be a self-help book. I really wanted to be impactful for my readers. And I was very intentional with that. I divided the book into 4 sections, dig, plant, grow, and flourish. Because in order to be able to go and plant new seeds of truth in our life, we sometimes have to go and uproot the tangled, messy, maybe even like dead, old, ugly roots of our identity before we get to go and plant new seeds of truth. But even in the growing phase, when those plantlings, you know, start to like come up and like flourish, there's still pruning that needs to take place. That can be hard. And so I've divided the book into 4 sections, and the last section is called Flourish. And I write in chapter 10, I say no to celery, and not like the check, not like the paycheck, like celery, the leaves celery. So I'm all about like a good green juice, but celery leaves don't last. And this is actually based on a story in outside of Athens, in a city used to be called Corinth. They used to have the Isthmian Games that like happened not far from there, and the Isthmian Games were like a big rival to like the Olympic Games. I know Olympic, we've got we'll have Olympic fever right now. There used to be like a big rival to the Olympic Games, and the winners of these games would win a crown. Okay. And that's really a big part of what inspired my title. They would win a crown. But my crown that I got to wear was made of diamonds and pearls, and is probably somewhere in a vault right now. But what these athletes won was a crown made up of celery leaves, or depending on the season, pine or olive tree leaves.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, I don't know about you guys, but that just sounds like a head salad to me. Like, that was not going to last. And the crazy thing was, some scholars believe that these athletes were like literally willing to put their lives on the line to just go and compete at these games. Like, that's how like hard and intense it was. So, you know, they were willing to like give up so much to wear a crown made up of celery leaves. And so that really inspired the title. Let's not chase perishable crowns. Let's chase after things that actually really matter and can last into eternity.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read.
Yeah. It'll be fun.
And it's out now, so go get it for yourself.
Go get it.
Before we head into our last Lemon 7 segment, I just wanted to ask this. In your final round of your Miss Universe pageant, you were asked what quality of yourself were you most proud of? And I'd love to know, 7 years later, sitting here today, what quality today in yourself are you most proud of?
I think it's such a great question. I love that you asked that. I think if I could re-answer that question, I would say I am proud of the fact that I can admit that I don't have it all figured out. After I handed back my crown, I moved back to New York, and I like pretended to be my own assistant for a good couple of months because I was so fearful of telling someone I don't know what's next, and I'm okay with that. That was really hard for me. I achieved this big thing, and I just had to give back my dream job, and it left me completely spiraling into a total identity crisis, into that season that just felt wasted. And I felt like an absolute failure, saying, I don't know what's next, and I'm okay with it. But listen, I'm going to continue working through it, because in that season, I think I alluded to self-pity and just sitting in that and hoping for the next thing to just arrive on my doorstep. And so, I'd like to give myself a hug, like Demi 2017. I just want to give her a hug and say, it's okay. You don't have to be perfect. Yeah. One of my chapters is titled Presence Over Perfection. And my dogs actually make a little bit of a tribute in the book. They make an appearance in the book. Big dog mom here. I know you guys are dog lovers. I got to meet your babies earlier. They're so sweet. When Tim and I first got married, I used to like be on a like frantic just mission to get the house spotless and perfect and clean whenever we had guests over. And I have 3 big dogs, and they all shed, like they're all like big shedding dogs. And like I would have the little Roombas going, I would have the, just all the things. And Tim like one day told me, he's like, listen, people are going to care more about you just being present than being perfect. If the toilet paper runs out, like they're grown-ups, they can ask for more. And now we have a sign at our front door that says, welcome, I hope you like dog hair.
Cute.
So
we need that sign.
Yeah, we sure do.
We need that sign.
We also need a little bit of that advice.
Are you calling me out? Yeah, I already. That's me. That's me. I literally woke up before you came. I had the Roomba going. I was vacuuming stuff.
Oh, your house is beautiful. It's stunning.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I could definitely relate to that one. Okay, should we do our little lemon 7?
Perfect.
These are just 7 questions. You can rapid fire them. You can go into detail.
Perfect.
Whatever your heart desires when you hear the question. You want to start us off?
All right. Number 1. What movie or song title best describes your mental health today?
I'm so bad with songs and things, but I think, you know what? I think I told you my book's divided into 4 sections: Stick, Blunt, Grow, Flourish. But I think a lot of what we don't always talk about, I had a conversation with one of my friends, Sadie Rob recently, and she told me, she's like, Demi, you know, when you think about the planting, like nobody really ever talks about like the darkness that you feel like being just covered in like dirt, like that's needed for that seed to eventually flourish. But like being just covered in, you know, like for me right now, I feel like just work and responsibility, and like one of my friends had a baby and they live not far from me, and I haven't seen her baby yet, you know, like it's been a few months, and I've just been so just like planted in that feels like just dirt at the moment. So maybe song, I feel like maybe Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. Because I feel like I'm starting to just see light, and you know, that waiting season is just starting to feel lifted in a big way. And I know it's never going to be perfect, and that's okay.
Wow. Well, that was great.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Jeez. Okay, number 2 is how open are you with people in your life when you're struggling?
Tim and I always say we don't have accountability partners. We have transparency partners.
Yeah.
Because you still get to lie to accountability partners. You know, you don't always get to be fully honest to them. Well, that's up to you, right?
Yeah.
So having transparency partners, I think, is important. And I think that's not something that I necessarily go and announce to the whole world, but I have, I call them my pit crew. Yeah. And they're a small group of people that I really trust and that I know loves me and cares about me and knows all the good parts that like, and the bad parts. You know, I feel like fitting in can sometimes be rooted in fear, but belonging is rooted in love. And belonging really just means to be fully known and fully loved, regardless of your imperfections. So I wouldn't say it's something that I allude to very easily, but when I know it's necessary, I have a small group, a pit crew of transparency partners.
That's sweet.
That's great. All right, number 3. If you could only follow 3 social media accounts, what would they be?
Like for forever? Like never again anything.
Yeah,
else.
never.
You only get 3.
I don't really scroll that much on Instagram. Like I don't feel like I just honestly, most of the stuff that pops up that like just makes me happy or like dog accounts.
Yeah.
So I think there's an account I follow, Dogs of Instagram.
Yeah.
And it's really cute and it just always makes me happy. Dogs of Instagram. I genuinely love learning from Dr. Caroline Leaf. I know we spoke about her earlier. I would love to keep following her because she posts every Friday, she posts memes, and like I go on Instagram to go check out her memes on Friday. Funny. They are so funny. And like I'm like, what are they going to be this week? Like, so,
she seems pretty witty.
Dr. Caroline, please keep posting them. They're like they're like the highlight of my week sometimes. So, and the third one, I don't know, maybe like a Magnolia, like lifestyle cookie. I love Joanna Gaines and everything that she does.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. You know, like cooking tips, like
what a woman.
Decorating.
Yeah.
We've been married for 4 years, going on 5, and I like just got one of our guest rooms like furnished. Yeah. Like the guest room, like
I'm glad to hear I'm not alone.
I was like, Tim,
in that.
your man cave furniture's officially out.
I know.
That's funny. Those are good accounts. I would agree with all of those.
Yeah.
I like those.
Fun.
Yeah.
Okay, number 4 is, what is your favorite form of self-care?
Okay, I don't know if this counts as self-care, but I love caring for my dogs. Like giving them a bath in the summer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, like they are so calming. They're always happy to see you no matter what. Like no matter if you live for a minute or an hour, they're always happy to see you. And I like they pretend to hate it, but I know they actually love it.
Yeah.
So my golden will, like, if I'm brushing my Bernice, because he like has a lot of hair, really needs a lot of brushing. My golden will like come and like squeeze in and like put himself in front of the brush. So it's so like calming to me. I just always feel so replenished.
Yeah.
And then I told you guys, I'm such a great girl. Like, I love a good face mask, good Epsom salt bath, little peppermint oils. And so,
That's great. All right, number 5. What would you say is the most misunderstood thing about you?
Probably my accent.
Literally.
Caramel.
caramel, plant, who knows? Banana, banana.
Good answer.
That's a very good answer. Okay, number 6 is who has had the most positive impact on your mental health?
Oh, many people, but I would say probably my stepmom. Just the role that she fulfilled in my life. And like I said, I never even knew I had a therapy session, but I had a stepmom that just poured into me and taught me like how to set boundaries and be okay with it, like how to use the word no. I think she's just given me such practical like skills and tools that's just empowered me throughout my life. I mean, all my parents, genuinely, like, I'm so thankful to be able to even say that I have 2 sets of parents. Like, I have 4 people in my life that I genuinely see as my parents, as mom and dad figures in my life. And they all fulfill such a different role. And they've just been there, obviously, since day one. And I'm so thankful for them. So I met my step-parents when I was 3 and 5. And so I my parents both got remarried, and they've both been remarried for like, I think 25 and 27 years or something. So that the math doesn't add up, but like around there, right? So just very thankful for them. Very thankful for them. And of course my husband, he's really just my greatest cheerleader. I feel like sometimes he believes in me when I don't, and he is just my sounding board. I love that so much about him. So thankful for him. Love you, babe.
All right, last but not least, number 7. If you could go back to one moment in your life, what moment would that be, and what would you say to yourself?
The day before our wedding was chaos.
Yeah.
Like, it was a really hard day. We got married in South Africa, my home country, and we got married in Cape Town in the wine region, and it's like the Napa of South Africa.
Yeah.
But
I've
maybe
always
better.
I've always wanted to go.
It's and then you have like, a short flight, and you have a safari, and there's mountains and there's beaches. It's our favorite place in the world. Genuinely, I'm very biased, obviously, but I got Tim hooked too. But the day before our wedding was chaos. It was storming. There were gale force winds. We had like these big pots that just like blew over. They couldn't set up for our wedding. And we didn't necessarily have a backup. We got married in the middle of summer. There were no rain predicted. Like, there was like maybe one rainy day predicted for the whole month of January, because it's dry season and it's like in a semi-desert area. So it's not necessarily supposed to be rain. And it was just chaos. And we also have this tradition in South Africa where the bride and the groom doesn't see each other the day before the wedding. So we had our rehearsal dinner on the Saturday, and we got married on the Monday, so that we could have like that tradition. And it was sweet, but it was so stressful, and I was just so stressed out. I genuinely didn't get to enjoy any of it. Like, like, even thinking back, like, all I can remember is like chaos, stress, and our wedding day ended up being perfect. Like, in my book, I write about, like, you think like it's the big things in life that it's supposed to be perfect, but it's actually all the small moments, all the small sweet moments that end up making the big moments. Like, I remember the rain went away the day of our wedding, and they were able to set up. It was so crazy windy. Like, I had a veil, and my veil like flew like straight up in the air. Oh my gosh. I remember, like, just about before we were walking down the aisle, my dad and I looked at each other, and he's like, "Are you ready?" And I'm like, "Well, we both gotta be right now." And he just like gripped onto my veil so tight. He's like, "I'm not gonna let this thing go. Don't you worry." Like, he just like had me in that moment, and that was like such a sweet such a sweet moment, you know, like looking over and just like seeing my mom crying and my dad getting all softy and sweet, you know, like it's all those sweet moments, like seeing Tim's face, like walking down the aisle, like who cares about like if it was pouring rain, like,
yeah,
you know, everybody still had the best time, and it ended up being the best day. But I wish I could go back to the day before and just be more present than wanting to make everything perfect.
Yeah,
that's good advice.
That's sweet. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This was so fun.
So fun getting to like learn more about you. I feel like we're like 1 degree of separation. Like we have so many mutual friends. So this was so.
Yeah.